So Joe Biden, in his first few days as president, continues to insist his overarching goal is building unity, largely between Republicans and Democrats, as the country tries to move beyond Trump's 4 years as president. But I'm really concerned that Joe Biden is going to make that unity project not something he wants to do ideally, but something that will be his overarching goal at all costs. And in so doing, he's going to hurt the people that need him most, that depend on him most, and that made him president. Right? Like Joe Biden, for instance, has already sort of indicated he doesn't want to get rid of the filibuster. Like, he still believes the filibuster is a good thing. His press secretary was asked about it yesterday and said his position hasn't changed, and Biden has long-term been a supporter of the filibuster existing, meaning that unless you can get 60 votes in the Senate and the Democrats only have 51 with the Harris tiebreaker, you can't pass most bills with the filibuster. And so Biden really needs to question, when does this unity become simply surrendering to the Republicans? And there was a great article by Chauncey DeVega. I'm going to read you a couple sections of it because it's from somebody that's a bigger Biden supporter than I am. Somebody who's actually quite happy that Biden is president and optimistic, but worries about Biden's call for unity simply being kowtowing to the Republicans. And it notes here, to accomplish his goal, Biden is asking good Americans, those who believe in democracy, to reach out to Trump followers and other Republicans, a group of people who have repeatedly shown that they reject multiracial democracy and embrace authoritarianism. In essence, Biden is asking his voters and other supporters to do the emotional, moral, and physical labor of reaching out to the worst elements of America, those who have exiled themselves into the alternative reality of Trump world and the broader right-wing echo chamber. Biden's approach rewards bad behavior and does not force a new maturity or wisdom onto Trumpists, Republicans, and other repentant elements of the right. Ultimately, such an approach all but ensures that the white right will become even more radical and dangerous. And it goes on here to basically say that, look, a lot of these groups, even if they're not mentioning Trump anymore, are still basically saying that Biden lacks legitimacy, that his voters lack legitimacy, and in many ways, people like Biden, and whether we're talking about, Biden moderates or even the more progressive Democrats like AOC and Bernie Sanders, they're not real Americans like Trump and Republican voters are. And I don't know how you can reason with people that question your very Americanity based on the fact that you don't vote Republican. So the article continues. Joe Biden has declared himself a president for all Americans. In practice, however, that may be impossible. Instead, Biden needs to realize sooner rather than later that he must be the best president possible while refusing to surrender to the demands of a Republican Party and right-wing public that views him and his voters as un-American, illegitimate, what have you. To compromise with such people is not a path to national healing. It is a path to the betrayal of American democracy that will only serve to undermine our new president's ability to lead the country back to reality, sanity, health, and perhaps even greatness. And look, this person is obviously a lot more hopeful about Biden than I am, because I think Biden at his best is, just going to be, a decent president. Like, if he keeps all of his promises, he'll be decent. I don't think he's going to be some transformative president. Nonetheless, I agree. That Joe Biden, because of his long-term service in the Senate from a time when partisanship wasn't quite as all-encompassing and intense, that Joe Biden, as a moderate who has often found that he could work maybe more closely with center-right Republicans than his own party's left, like he's closer ideologically to some of them than maybe the party's left wing, that maybe bipartisanship and compromise has worked with him. And I made a video, a couple weekends ago now, where I said that Biden has always wanted a strong Republican Party, both because he has this romanticism about bipartisanship, but also because it keeps the left in his own party sort of at bay. But if he actually wants to get things done, maybe he needs to realize that the Republican Party of today is not the Republican Party of the 1970s when he was a young idealistic senator. It's not the same thing. He should know this. Joe Biden, more than most people, should know this. He knows that he and Barack Obama really gave it a good faith effort to be bipartisan in a much stronger Democratic environment. Like, they had more seats in the House, more seats in the Senate. Obama's victory was even bigger than Joe's, and it didn't matter. Republicans did not play ball, and the Democrats got punished for it. They got punished for Republican obstruction. They got punished for it. And so the lesson should be for Biden, you need to be strong. When you can work with Republicans, okay, for sure, work with Republicans. I'm sure that on an isolated case-by-case basis, you'll get some Republicans to go with you, and that's good. But you should not simply say bipartisanship is goal number one and actually getting my promises done is goal number two. As I noted in my video on Inauguration Day, look, Biden was made president by some of the most marginalized American people. Black women, black people in general, but black women in particular, who often struggle so deeply, historically and today, made this man president. They made him president, and they gave him close races in Georgia, which will give him a Senate. And are you going to tell those people that actually my job is to reach out to rural white people that think that they are fundamentally un-American, and that's my only job, my number one job is to unify? No, at some point, you need to fight for your people. You need to fight for the working class people, the poor people, the African American people, the other racialized people that made you president. They are your priority. That's my viewpoint. Unity when possible, but only when possible. Look, here's a great clip from Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders was on Seth Meyers earlier this week, and he was asked about this. Like, do you want to work with Republicans, and will it be possible? And Bernie's answer, I think, is a good one, and I think this should be clearly Joe Biden's tone.
Do you think there is some sort of bipartisan work that can be done in the Senate, or are you expecting a sort of McConnell-inspired gridlock?
Look, I think we should do our best to reach out to Republicans who represent communities that are suffering terribly in terms of unemployment, lack of health care, and other very serious problems. But I don't think our reaching out should go on indefinitely. This country today is hurting, and people are hurting really, really badly. We're looking at people who cannot feed their kids, literally, who are worried about being evicted, can't afford to go to the doctor, even when they are sick. We have got to move and move quickly. So I think we should reach out to Republicans. If they choose not to come on board, which I suspect will probably be the case, we have the majority. We should use that majority in a very aggressive way. Now, I'm going to be chairman of the Budget Committee, which handles what we call reconciliation. And that is a Senate process by which you can pass not all kinds of legislation, but a whole lot of very important legislation with a majority vote, not 60 votes. And it is my view we should make sure that we address the needs of the American people in that reconciliation bill. And if we pass it with 51 votes, we'll pass it with 51 votes.
So what Bernie has said there is like, look, we have an opportunity to get real things done. If the Republicans want to come on board, they can come on board. But this unity talk has a cutoff point. And if they're going to be obstructionist, we're going to use reconciliation, and we're going to use all the tools we can to ensure that 51 votes means a vote gets passed. None of this 60 vote thing. The Republicans already have an overrepresentation in the Senate, given that they represent smaller states in that Senate. The Democratic 50 senators have 40 million more votes behind them than the 50 Republican senators. The Republicans already have a strong minority voice in the Senate. They do not need to have 60 votes. Biden needs to take the lead against the filibuster. Biden needs to take the lead against bad faith Republicans, and not just the 2 or 3 we're all talking about. Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley, Jim Jordan, Ron Johnson, and, Marjorie Taylor Greene, etc. Not just those ones, but the majority of the Republicans in the House and a healthy amount in the Senate that backed some of Donald Trump's schemes. If he wants to be a great president, you do not do that through bipartisan unity. You do that by going into office and getting done what you said you would get done. That's what he has to do.